Hey, everybody, welcome back again. We are still in constitutional chaos. We have officially made it through the 16th Amendment. We're going to carry on with amendments. I'm trying not to overwhelm you all, so I'm trying to keep the episode short. I'm going to cover as many as I can while still trying not to push the 40-minute limit. I feel like that's a little bit too long for everybody to sit through a complete download of information. If you disagree with that, I can absolutely do longer form, but I do get more views when they're shorter. So I'm just going to go with that. Welcome back to the Green Eyed Girl podcast, Constitutional Chaos. All right, so we're going to jump right back into this with Amendment 17, passed by Congress May 13th of 1912, ratified April 11th of 1913. Note, Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution was modified by the 17th Amendment. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. The electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of state legislature. When the vacancies happen in the representation of the state in the Senate, the executive authority of such state shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies provided. But the legislature of the state may empower the executive thereof to make the temporary appointments until the people fill the vacancies by election as the legislature may direct. This amendment shall not be so construed as to affect the election or term of a senator chosen before it becomes valid as part of the Constitution. Talked about this back in previous episode. I did 2 episodes actually to go through Article 1 because it was so long. We talked about senators. So this doesn't change any of the qualifications for senators. This just takes us from the state legislatures voting for the senators, because that's how this all started, right? Representatives were to represent the people. Senators are to represent the state. Therefore, the state legislature was who was sending senators. Now we've switched it to people picking who's going to go represent their state. So we talked about how this was coming. That's that. Amendment 18, passed by Congress December 18th, 1917, ratified January 16th, 1919, repealed by Amendment 21. Section 1. After 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors within the importation thereof into or the exportation thereof from the United States and all territories subject to the jurisdiction thereof for beverage purposes is hereby prohibited. Section 2. The Congress and the several states shall have concurrent power to enforce the article by appropriate legislation. Section 3. This article shall be in operation unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislature of several states as provided in the Constitution within 7 years from the date of submission thereof to the states by Congress. Obviously, this is prohibition. We all know that this has been revoked. I read it right there at the top. It already said that it was repealed. But that's prohibition. That's how it came to be. So if anybody notices, so it got ratified in 1919. Therefore, 1 year later was 1920. And that's, everybody talks about the 20s, right? Speakeasies, big thing. Bootlegging, big thing. Anyone who's watched, my husband and I just got done watching 1923 television show. Obviously, speakeasies, bootlegging. It's all part of that show. It was a big part of the 20s. Now, I really don't know a whole lot about prohibition outside of the narrative that we've been told about it. I obviously, you've been listening to this podcast, you know I don't trust narratives. That might be something I dig into in the future and find out the real story behind prohibition. I have heard a couple different tellings of it. Obviously, what we were taught in school is, well, it didn't work because there were bootleggers, moonshiners, blah, 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 blah. We'll see. But that is prohibition. No alcohol. Amendment 19, passed by Congress June 4th of 1919, ratified August 18th of 1920. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. There it is. So when women got the right to vote right there in 1920. So that, along with prohibition, I think that took a lot of steam out of men. A bunch of alcoholics built this country, women hanging on, and now here we are. So when you hear everybody saying repeal the 19th, this is what they're talking about. But yeah, that's when women's suffrage. All right, Amendment 20, passed by Congress March 2nd of 1932, ratified January 23rd of 1933. No, Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution was modified by Section 2 of this amendment. In addition, a portion of the 12th Amendment was superseded by Section 3. So last episode, I talked about that. I read multiple notes as we went through amendments where it had an asterisk and it said modified later. Section 1. The terms of the President and Vice President shall end at noon the 20th day of January, and the terms of Senators and Representatives at noon on the 3rd day of January of the years in which such terms would have ended if this article had not been ratified, and the terms of their successors shall then begin. Section 2. The Congress shall assemble at least once every year, and such a meeting shall begin at noon on the 3rd day of January, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Section 3. If, at the time fixed for the beginning of the term of president, the president-elect shall have died, the vice president-elect shall become president. If a president shall not have been chosen before the time fixed for the beginning of his term, or if the president-elect shall have failed to qualify, then vice president-elect shall act as president until a president shall have qualified. And the Congress may, by law, provide for such cases wherein neither a president-elect nor a vice president-elect shall have qualified, declaring who shall then act as president, or the manner in which one who is to act shall be selected, and such a person shall act accordingly until a president or vice president shall have qualified. Section 4. The Congress may, by law, provide for the case of the death of any of the persons from whom the House of Representatives may choose a president, whenever the right of choice shall have devolved upon them, and for the case of death of any persons from whom the Senate may choose a vice president, whenever the right of choice shall have devolved upon them. Section 5. Sections 1 and 2 shall take effect on the 15th day of October following the ratification of this article. Section 6. The article shall be in operation unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by legislatures of 3/4 of several states within 7 years of the date of its submission. So we started out Section 1. They're just stipulating Inauguration Day. That's all it comes down to. We all know now. It's been this way. Well, obviously since 1932. We know this has always been this way. Always been the 20th day of January. That is Inauguration Day. It's when the president takes off. Done. And the same thing with Congress. They start on the 3rd of January every time. Now, this is, we have changed this so many times now. So if there's an assassination of the president-elect from when he's actually elected to Inauguration Day, obviously Vice President-elect takes his position, so on and so forth. This is just starting to put some order in place for any kind of succession. And the same thing goes, so it's actually sections 3 and 4 are just putting a little bit more stability behind, hey, if something happens and a president should die, we should probably have a backup plan. That's really what we're starting to get into. Obviously we've already been through World War I. World War II is very quickly ramping up. We're seeing a lot of changes in the world. We've seen many leaders being assassinated around the world. They're just trying to put a little bit more stability behind our government so that we have a better way to replace a president should something happen. And obviously something did. Multiple times, actually, we've had presidents have been shot at. We know JFK died. This is where we start to get some stability backing our leaders. Amendment 21, passed by Congress February 20th of 1933, ratified December 5th of 1933. Section 1, the 18th article of amendment to the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed. Section 2, the transportation or importation into any state, territory, or possession of the United States for the delivery or use therein of intoxicating liquors in violation of the law thereof is hereby prohibited. Section 3. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the conventions of several states, as provided in the Constitution within 7 years of the date of submission thereof to the states by the Congress. So we literally just talked about this. So this is the repeal of prohibition and all of the laws that they were allowed to put into place to support prohibition. So we lasted a whopping 13 years with prohibition and switched back. And you'll notice this has been repeated language now, the 7 years. I'm noticing that this has now been repeated multiple times over, that basically it's going to be, this is null and void if we don't ratify it. It's not going to come back up again. So they're just putting some time limits on themselves. Amendment 22, passed by Congress March 21st, 1947, ratified February 27th of 1951. Section 1. No person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of president more than once. But this article shall not apply to any person holding the office of president when this article was proposed by Congress, and shall not prevent any person who may be holding the office of president or acting as president during this term within this article becomes operative from holding the office of president or acting as president during the remainder of such term. Section 2. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislatures of 3/4 of several states within 7 years of the date of its submission to the states by the Congress. So this is where we are starting to put some limits on the executive branch again. So 2 terms. If we have a president who passed 2 years into his 4-year term and the vice president took over, that vice president can have 2 successive terms. So they could technically go for 10 years being president. But if the president dies 1 year into his 4-year term and the vice president serves him out, he can only do 1 more term after because he has served so long. So we're really just smacking it down and limiting the time in office for a president to 10 years total. That's absolute max. Amendment 23, passed by Congress June 16th of 1960, ratified March 29th, 1961. Section 1, the district constituting the seat of government of the United States shall appoint in such a manner as Congress may direct a number of electors of president and vice president equal to the number of senators and representatives in Congress to which the district would be entitled if it were a state, but in no event more than the least populous state. They shall be in addition to those appointed by the state, but they shall be considered for the purpose of the election of president and vice president to be electors appointed by a state, and they shall meet in the district and perform such duties as provided by the 12th article of the amendment. Section 2, the Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So everybody kind of knows wild stuff happened in the 60s. This is definitely one of the wild things I would say that happened in the 60s. So we went from the District of Columbia being absolute neutral territory to now there's way too many flipping people living here to the point where they have to have electors for president. That shouldn't have been the case, in my opinion, personal opinion. I don't have any respect for Washington, D.C. in this capacity. It should absolutely be neutral territory. There is really no reason that so many people should live there. The people that do live there are mainly federal employees, lobbyists, so on and so forth. And to me, this is problem. To me, this is a problem, but it happened. Wild stuff happened in the 60s. We all know. Amendment 24, passed by Congress August 27th of 1962, ratified January 23rd, 1964. Section 1, the right of citizens of the United States to vote in a primary or other elections for president or vice president, for electors for president or vice president, or for senator or representative in Congress, shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state by reason of failure to pay any poll tax or any other tax. Section 2, the Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So even if you're not paying taxes, you still get to vote. This also prohibits poll taxing, so you can't tax people for coming to vote. Amendment 25, passed by Congress July 6th of 1965, ratified February 10th, 1967. Note, Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution was affected by the 25th Amendment. Section 1, in case of the removal of president from office or his death or resignation, the vice president shall become president. Section 2, wherever there is a vacancy in the office of vice president, president shall nominate a vice president who shall take the office upon confirming by a majority vote of both houses of Congress. Section 3, whenever the president transmits to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that he is unable to discharge powers and duty of office, and until he transmits them to a written declaration to the contrary, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the vice president as acting president. Section 4. Whenever the vice president and a majority of either principal officers of the executive departments or such a body of Congress may by law provide, transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting president. Therefore, when the president transmits to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that no inability exists, he shall resume powers and duties of his office, unless the vice president and the majority of either principal officers or executive department or of such other body as Congress may provide by law transmit within 4 days to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Thereupon, Congress shall decide the issue, assembling within 48 hours for that purpose, if not in session. If Congress within 21 days after the receipt of the latter declaration, or if Congress is not in session within 21 days after Congress is required to assemble, determines by 2/3 vote of the House the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall continue to discharge the same as acting president. Otherwise, the president shall resume powers and duties of his office. So, obviously, this happened in 1965. We just had the JFK assassination in 1963. So, this really is just putting in backing and stability and making sure that if a president is injured or gravely ill, that they have a plan. If the president has to step down temporarily due to massive illness, whatever that may be, and is not able to be president, the vice president's going to step up and take his place. If it is something that the president can come back from, he has to send the letter to the correct people, i.e. President pro tempore and the Speaker of the House, and justify that he's okay. And unless the vice president and all the people come back and say, no, he absolutely can't come back, blah, 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 he gets to come back. So really, again, wild stuff happened in the 60s, right? JFK being killed was one of the big ones, and this was put into the Constitution to give stability to the United States in such cases. Amendment 26, passed by Congress March 23rd of 1971, ratified July 1st of 1971. Note, Amendment 14, Section 2 of the Constitution was modified by Section 1 of the 26th Amendment. Section 1, the right of citizens of the United States who are 18 years of age or older to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of age. Section 2, the Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Again, we talked about this in the last episode. We knew this was coming because up until 1971, it was 21 years of age. So now we've dropped the legal voting age to 18. Amendment 27, originally proposed September 25th of 1789, ratified May 7th of 1992. So now you should be seeing, when I pointed out, there were several amendments that had the time stipulation. It would be null and void within 7 years. This is part of why it was proposed in 1789 and ratified in 1992. No law varying compensation for service of senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of the representatives shall have intervened. So this is where they're protecting their money. They can't change how much money they're making until an election season. So those are the only representative election seasons. That's the only time they can actually change. So every 2 years. So There's no way to raise or lower. And we talked about how much money they make back in the Article 1 episodes. It's insane. I mean, absolutely asinine. And I told you that all kinds of things changed in the 1990s, 80s, and 90s. For that, this is one of the major ones. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the Constitution of the United States, and thus the end of constitutional chaos. I hope you understand now how our governmental system is supposed to work based on this. If you look at how big and bloated our government is, and then you understand that this is it. This is the Constitution of the United States. It is that much of a book. And then you look at how enormous our government is, our federal government is, and how much they have a direct impact in your life when they're not supposed to. That's why I'm a constitutionalist. And we make amendments. I don't have to agree with every amendment that's made. You don't have to agree with every amendment that's made. But amendments can be made, and they have been all the way up until 1992. And we can make more. We can change things. You just have to really want to if you're going to. But you should understand now what the true deep law of the land is. You should be looking at the rights the founders made sure to give to you directly to the people. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States. Very important words. I sincerely hope this has given you a lot to think about. I sincerely hope that this has made you question your fundamental belief about the federal government. I hope this gives you a better idea of what this country was actually founded upon. This was a country that was meant to be different than anything else in the world. And the federal government was not meant to have the power and size that it does today. This Constitution was written to give sovereignty to the states and allow them to be independent nations, and to allow the people to directly affect what happens in their country and to protect them from tyrannical government. The straying from this is our problem. Thank you. Sincerely, thank you for tuning into this. I really, with all of my being, hope that you learned something and are questioning fundamental ideologies that have pervaded society today about the federal government. The president is the furthest removed from the direct will of the people. Despite the fact that we all get to vote for him, he is the furthest removed from the direct will of the people in power. Therefore, he shouldn't be interfering in the direct will of the people. You'll also notice that there's nothing in here about parties and the control that they have. The party system interferes with your rights. Parties aren't written in here, but the parties decide who's going to be put forth to represent you. The party is standing in your way. Question. Always question. Never give up your rights. Never back down. Never choose safety over freedom. Always refer back to your Constitution. This was a great refresher for me. This solidified more ideals that I have been coming back to for several years now. We need to shrink our federal government. We need to take our power back because we have been willingly handing it over for safety for far too long. We've heard for several years now that this is a 1776 moment. It is. It absolutely is, because we have strayed so very far from the Constitution and from what our founders wanted for us and for this nation. Thank you for tuning in. Sincerely hope that you liked this series. If you want more, or you have questions and want further discussion on this, please comment. Let's go through it. I will be more than happy to make more episodes just discussing these topics. Again, I love the Constitution. We've already discussed that. But thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. God bless.